The council chamber floated in the darkness of space like a jewel. Ambassador Chen Wei watched the stars through the transparent dome above as she waited for the session to begin. She had been coming to this place for 12 years now, representing humanity in the great forum where 47 species gathered to discuss the future of the galaxy. Something felt wrong today. The emergency session had been called with barely 24 hours' notice. Council members who normally greeted her with warm gestures now avoided her eyes. The Valorian delegation, usually composed and diplomatic, seemed tense and excited at the same time. The chamber filled quickly. Representatives from dozens of worlds took their positions in the circular arrangement that symbolized equality among species. Chen noticed that the smaller delegations, those from peaceful worlds that often sided with humanity, looked uncomfortable. The Kryn Federation members whispered among themselves. The Synthesis Collective's artificial forms stood perfectly still, their optical sensors fixed on the Valorian High Counselor. High Counselor Vexthor stood at the central podium. His forearms spread wide in the traditional gesture of important announcements. Chen felt her stomach tighten. Vexthor was known for his careful politics and quiet power. He never made dramatic gestures unless something significant was happening. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Vexthor began, his translator converting his complex language into words everyone could understand. We gather today to address a matter of galactic security, a threat that has lived among us hidden in plain sight. Chen leaned forward. Every instinct she had developed during years of diplomatic service screamed danger. Our scientists have made a troubling discovery, Vexthor continued. He gestured and a holographic image appeared above the podium. It showed a DNA strand, clearly human, with sections highlighted in red. The species we know as humanity carries within their genetic code a pre-programmed sequence. An ancient modification designed to create aggressive behavior, territorial expansion, and dominance over other species. The chamber erupted in shocked sounds from various species. Chen felt the blood drain from her face. This was impossible. Humanity had been thoroughly studied when they first joined the galactic community. Nothing like this had ever been found. This is false, Chen said, rising from her seat. Her voice carried through the chamber's acoustics. Humanity has been scanned, studied, and analyzed for 50 years. No such sequence exists. Vexthor turned his large eyes toward her. For a moment, Chen thought she saw satisfaction in them. Ambassador Chen, we understand this news is difficult, but the evidence is clear. The sequence was hidden using technology we had not encountered before. Only now, with advances in genetic analysis, have we discovered the truth. Show me the research, Chen demanded. Let our scientists review it. This requires verification. The research has been verified by 17 independent laboratories across the council, said Counselor Thren of the Synthesis Collective. Her artificial voice carried no emotion. The conclusion is unanimous. Chen felt trapped. Something was terribly wrong, but she had no way to prove it. Not here, not now, with the entire council watching. What are you proposing? She asked, though she feared she already knew the answer. Vexthor's expression became grave. For the safety of all species in the council, we must implement a quarantine. Humanity will be restricted to the Sol system. All human colonists, merchants, diplomats, and travelers must return to their home system within 90 days. Human colonies outside Sol will be placed under council administration until we can determine if the genetic sequence can be safely removed. This is an act of war, Chen said, her voice shaking with controlled anger. You're imprisoning an entire species based on fabricated evidence. It is an act of prevention, Vexthor replied calmly. We have witnessed humanity's rapid advancement. Your species has developed technology faster than any other in recorded history. You have shown remarkable skill in warfare during the conflicts where we fought together. Now we understand why. The genetic programming drives you toward conquest. We fought those wars for you, Chen shot back. Human soldiers died defending council worlds. We asked for nothing in return except friendship and fair treatment. And we are grateful, Vexthor said, which is why we offer quarantine rather than elimination. Some council members argued for more severe measures. Chen looked around the chamber. She searched for allies, for species that would stand with humanity. The smaller delegations looked away. The larger powers watched with expressions that ranged from concern to barely hidden satisfaction. I call for a vote, Chen said. Let the council decide democratically. A vote has already been prepared, Vexthor replied. all in favor of implementing the quarantine measures. Hands, tentacles, appendages, and technological indicators rose throughout the chamber. Chen counted quickly. 42 species voted in favor. Only 5 abstained. None voted against. The measure passes, Vexthor declared. Ambassador Chen, you have 24 hours to leave council space. Your diplomatic credentials are hereby suspended. All human representatives will be escorted to the border of the Sol system. Chen stood frozen for a moment. 50 years of partnership destroyed in minutes. Millions of humans living on colony worlds about to be imprisoned or worse. Everything humanity had worked for in the galaxy taken away based on lies. You will regret this, Chen said quietly, not because of any genetic programming, but because you have betrayed people who trusted you, who fought for you, who believed in this council. Your transport is waiting, Vexthor said, dismissing her. Chen walked through the chamber toward the exit. She passed delegations she had shared meals with, negotiated treaties beside, celebrated festivals alongside. None of them met her eyes now. Fear and politics had turned friends into strangers. On her ship, Chen stood at the viewing window as they departed from the council station. She watched as massive warships assembled in formation nearby. Dozens of vessels from multiple species, all heavily armed. Far more ships than a simple quarantine would require. Her communication officer approached nervously. Ambassador, I'm picking up encrypted military channels. The ships are coordinating positions around Sol system and near our colony worlds. Let me see, Chen said. The tactical display showed the ugly truth. The warships were positioned not for containment but for invasion. The council wasn't quarantining humanity. They were preparing to eliminate them. Chen felt a cold clarity settle over her. The fabricated evidence, the rushed vote, the overwhelming military response. This had been planned carefully. The Valorians feared humanity's growth and convinced the others to strike first. Open a secure channel to Earth, Chen ordered. Priority Alpha, tell them everything. And tell them the quarantine is a lie. They're coming for us. As her ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, Chen took one last look at the council station growing smaller in the distance. Humanity had come to the stars seeking friends and knowledge. They had given everything to be good members of the galactic community. Now they would have to remember how to be something else. Something the galaxy had not seen from them before. Not diplomats or peacekeepers or merchants, survivors. The jump to light speed engaged and the station vanished. Chen walked to her quarters to prepare the full report. Earth needed to know everything. The colonies needed to be warned. And humanity needed to decide what they would do when the galaxy came for them. 90 days seemed like a long time. Chen suspected it would pass very quickly. The warships would not wait that long. They were already moving. Admiral Marcus Steele stood before the holographic display showing Earth and its surrounding defenses. The war room beneath Geneva was filled with military leaders from every nation and every branch of service. The air felt heavy with tension and barely controlled anger. Show me the colony reports again, Steele said. The display shifted to show humanity's 17 colony worlds beyond the Sol system. Each one now had council ships in orbit. Each one was reporting the same pattern of behavior. Colonel Park from Mars Intelligence read from her tablet. New Singapore reports council troops have seized all spacecraft and communication arrays. The colonists are confined to their settlements. Food shipments have been cut by 40%. New Beijing? Steele asked. Worse. Council administrators have begun relocating colonists to centralized camps. They claim it's for efficient resource distribution. We're getting reports that anyone who protests disappears. Steele felt his jaw tighten. He had served with council forces during the Kryn Rebellion. He had fought beside Valorian soldiers and called them friends. Now those same species were imprisoning human civilians. General Okonkwo from African Union Space Command spoke up. We've intercepted coded transmissions between the Valorian fleet and Council Command. They're not planning a quarantine. They're planning an invasion. The room went silent. Show me, Steele said. The intelligence officer brought up the intercepted messages. The encryption had been broken using patterns Steele's people had quietly documented over years of working with Council military. The content was damning. Phase 1. Isolate human colonies. Phase 2. Secure Sol system approaches. Phase 3. Neutralize Earth's defenses. Phase 4. Occupation and population control. They're going to attack us, someone said quietly. They already have, Steele replied. They just haven't started shooting yet. President Amati entered the room and everyone stood. She looked exhausted. The past 3 days since Ambassador Chen's return had been filled with emergency sessions, angry protests, and desperate diplomatic attempts. The council refused my communication request, she said. They won't even talk to us now. Steele pulled up another display. Because they're already moving. The Valorian Armada crossed into the Oort cloud 2 hours ago. 2,000 warships from 13 species. They'll reach Mars in 45 days. The president closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, Steele saw the same look he had seen in combat commanders about to make the hardest decisions. Tell me what we have, she said. Steele activated the full tactical display. Protocol blackout. Murmurs went through the room. Protocol blackout was humanity's deepest secret. The contingency plan they had developed since first contact with the galactic community. When we first went to the stars, Steele began, we were naive. We thought the galaxy would welcome us. But our first contact teams noticed something. The council species were soft, comfortable. They hadn't fought a real war in generations. They had forgotten what desperation and survival looked like. He changed the display to show hidden installations throughout the Sol system. We started preparing, quietly. Every research station we built had a secondary purpose. Every mining operation in the asteroid belt included weapon platforms. Every commercial transport that left Sol carried intelligence-gathering equipment. General Chen, Ambassador Chen's brother, stepped forward. We've been mapping their fleet movements, their communication protocols, their tactical doctrines for 50 years. We know more about Council military capabilities than they know themselves. Show them the rest, President Amati said. Steele brought up files marked with the highest security classifications. We have quantum disruption weapons that can tear apart their shields. We have ships with engines 20% faster than anything the Council has. We have AI combat coordination that the Synthesis Collective doesn't know we've developed. Why didn't we share these technologies? Someone asked. Because we learned early that the Council doesn't like species that advance too quickly, Admiral Zhang answered. Look what happened to the Taraxians. They developed jump technology better than the Council's standard. Within 10 years, the Council had integrated their worlds and their technology belonged to everyone. The Taraxians stopped being an independent species. They became a client state. We kept our advances secret, Steele continued. We shared enough to seem cooperative. But our real capabilities stayed hidden. Just in case. President Amati walked to the center of the room. This is the just-in-case moment. She looked at each officer in turn. The Council has decided we're too dangerous to exist. They've fabricated evidence to justify eliminating us. Our colonists are in camps. An armada is approaching our home. They think we'll surrender or die quietly. What are our orders? General Okonkwo asked. I need to know what we're capable of, the president said. Can we win? Steele looked at the tactical display showing the approaching enemy fleet. 2,000 ships. It seemed impossible. Against their armada, if we fight defensively, we'll lose. They have numbers and they have experience. He paused. But if we implement protocol blackout fully, if we use everything we've prepared, if we go on the offensive, can we win? The president repeated. Steele met her eyes. Yes, but it won't be clean. It won't be easy. And the galaxy will never look at us the same way again. The president nodded slowly. They already don't look at us the same way. They look at us as victims, as problems to be eliminated. She straightened her shoulders. I want to address humanity. Everyone. Earth, Mars, the colonies, the ships. All of us. 2 hours later, 8 billion people on Earth and another 2 billion scattered across the solar system watched their president speak. My fellow humans, President Amati began. By now you know about the Council's decision. You know about the false evidence and the betrayal. You know that an army is coming to our home. She paused, letting the weight of it settle. For 50 years we have been peaceful. We have traded. We have learned. We have helped others. We fought in 3 wars to defend species that now vote to imprison us. We have been good neighbors, good friends, good citizens of the galaxy. Her voice hardened. They have forgotten something about us. In our history we have faced extinction many times. Ice ages, plagues, wars that nearly destroyed our world. Every time we survived. Not because we were the strongest or the smartest, but because when we are cornered, when we face the end, we become something else. The camera moved closer to her face. The Council thinks we are sheep. Because we chose to be peaceful. They are about to learn that sheep can have very sharp teeth when you threaten their children. They will learn what happens when you betray those who trusted you. They will learn that humanity's greatest strength is not our technology or our numbers. It is our memory. She leaned forward. We remember every kindness. We remember every friend, and we remember every betrayal. The Council is about to be reminded what humans are capable of when we stop being diplomats and remember how to be survivors. The broadcast ended, but her final words echoed across human space. In the war room, Admiral Steele began issuing orders. Throughout the solar system, hidden installations activated. Weapon platforms came online. Ships that looked like cargo vessels revealed their true nature as warships. On the colony worlds, resistance cells received coded signals and began preparing. The 90-day countdown meant nothing now. Humanity wasn't going to wait to be attacked. They were going to remind the galaxy why no empire had ever successfully conquered Earth. The Council was bringing 2,000 ships. Humanity was about to show them that. Numbers were not the same as victory. The war room was quiet except for the steady beeping of tactical displays. Admiral Steele watched the red icons representing the Valorian Armada move closer to Mars. 72 hours until contact. 2,000 warships from 13 different species, all united in their mission to neutralize humanity. President Ahmadi sat at the head of the conference table surrounded by her cabinet and military leadership. Ambassador Chen had returned from her final attempt at communication with neutral council species. Her expression told Steele everything he needed to know about how that had gone. They won't help us, Chen confirmed. The smaller species are too afraid of Valorian retaliation. The Synthesis Collective claims they're bound by council law. Even species that privately agree the evidence is false won't act against the majority. We're alone then, the Secretary of Defense said. We've always been alone, Steele replied. We just pretended otherwise for 50 years. He activated the tactical display showing the full scope of Protocol Blackout. Every hidden weapon platform, every disguised warship, every secret installation humanity had built since joining the galactic community appeared as blue markers across the solar system. This is everything? President Ahmadi asked. Everything, Steele confirmed. 300 weapon platforms scattered through the asteroid belt and Kuiper belt. Each one equipped with quantum disruption cannons that can punch through council shields. We tested them in secret over the years. They work, General Zhang continued the briefing. We have 500 ships that the council thinks are cargo vessels or research ships. They're actually combat craft with better engines and weapons than anything the Valorians have. We also have 100 true warships hidden in various locations. 600 ships against 2,000, someone said. Those aren't good odds. Numbers aren't everything, Admiral Yuki from the Japanese Space Defense Force said. We've studied their tactics for decades. Council militaries haven't fought a peer opponent in 300 years. They fight rebels and pirates. They've forgotten what real war looks like. Steele brought up intelligence reports. Their fleet movements are predictable. They travel in formation. They rely on shield strength rather than maneuverability. They communicate on channels we've already compromised. They're bringing overwhelming force because they think we'll see it and surrender. Will we? President Ahmadi asked. The room went silent. Steele met her eyes. That's your decision, Madam President. But I need you to understand what happens either way. If we surrender, the colonies will be occupied permanently. Earth will lose all sovereignty. Humanity will become a client species at best. At worst, they'll slowly reduce our population and scatter us across council worlds where we can't organize. And if we fight? If we implement Protocol Blackout completely, we can win. But the casualties will be high on both sides. The galaxy will be shocked. Every species will have to reconsider what they think they know about humanity. We'll either earn respect or become pariahs. We're already pariahs, Ambassador Chen said quietly. They've already decided we're dangerous. We might as well prove them right. President Ahmadi stood and walked to the display showing Earth. The planet looked peaceful from orbit, unaware that extinction approached. My grandmother told me stories, she said, about the wars of the 20th century, about how humans fought when their homes were threatened. She said the worst thing you could do to humans was make them believe they had no choice, because then they stopped worrying about what was acceptable and started worrying only about what was necessary. She turned back to the room. The Council has made us believe we have no choice. They've taken our colonies, They've called us genetic monsters. They're bringing an army to our home. They've given us permission to be monsters. What are your orders? Steele asked. President Amati looked at each face in the room. Military commanders who had trained their entire lives for battles they hoped would never come. Civilian leaders who had spent careers building peace. Intelligence officers who had prepared for this exact scenario. I want one more communication to the Valorian fleet, she said. Open channel. No encryption. I want every species in the galaxy to hear this. The communication officer worked quickly. Channel open, Madam President. The Valorian command ship is receiving. President Amati spoke clearly. This is President Amati of Earth to High Counselor Vex Thor of the Valorian Armada. You are approaching human territory with hostile intent, based on fabricated evidence. You have imprisoned our colonists. You have betrayed 50 years of peace and cooperation. This is your final chance to withdraw. There was a pause. Then Vex Thor's voice came through, arrogant and certain. President Amati, you are in no position to make demands. Your species will submit to council authority or face elimination. You have no fleet that can challenge us. You have no allies who will help you. Surrender now and your people will be treated fairly. Fairly, Amati repeated. Like you've treated our colonists in the camps. Necessary security measures. I see. President Amati's voice went cold. Then you leave us no choice. Earth officially withdraws from the Galactic Council. As of this moment, you are invaders in our territory. Empty words, Vex Thor replied. You cannot stop what's coming. You're right, Amati said. I cannot stop what's coming. But neither can you. She ended the transmission and turned to her assembled leadership. Admiral Steele, what is Protocol Blackout's activation code? Steele stood at attention. One word, Madam President. A command that every human military commander and defense coordinator will understand. A word that authorizes full deployment of all assets and all necessary force. What word? She asked, though Steele suspected she already knew. Retribution. The President walked slowly to the communication console. She placed her hand on the authorization panel. Every military commander in human space was waiting. Every defense platform, every hidden ship, every colony resistance cell, all waiting for the order that would change everything. Are we sure? She asked the room one final time. Once I say this word, there's no going back. We become what they fear. Ambassador Chen spoke up. They already fear us, but they also disrespect us. They think fear alone will win. Let's show them that respect is earned through action. President Amati nodded. She activated the Universal Military Channel. Every human commander, every ship captain, every station chief heard her voice. This is President Amati. Authorization code Alpha 10. To all human forces, all defensive positions, all personnel across all territories. The Valorian Armada has rejected peace. They have chosen war. They believe we are weak. They believe we will surrender. They have forgotten what humans are capable of. She paused, letting the weight of the moment build. For our colonists in camps, for 50 years of trust betrayed, for every human who died defending Council worlds, for our right to exist, I issue one order, one word. Let the galaxy hear it. Let them remember it. Let them understand what it means when you threaten humanity. She took a breath. Retribution. The word echoed through communication channels across human space. In shipyards near Jupiter, disguised warships powered their weapons. In the asteroid belt, 300 hidden platforms activated targeting systems. On Mars, defense forces took their positions. On occupied colony worlds, resistance cells emerged from hiding. Near Earth, Admiral Steele's flagship began moving toward the approaching enemy. Throughout the war room, officers began coordinating. The peaceful period of human history was over. What came next would determine if humanity survived or died. But one thing was certain. The Valorian Armada expected to fight sheep. They were about to discover that humanity had never forgotten how to be wolves. The word spread through every human settlement. Retribution, not revenge. Not rage, but a calculated, measured response to betrayal. The galaxy had tried to eliminate humanity because they feared what humans might become. They were about to see what humans actually were when you left them no choice but to fight for survival. The Valorian Armada emerged from faster-than-light travel near Mars in perfect formation. 2,000 warships arranged in the classic Council battle pattern that had won wars for 3 centuries. High Counselor Vex Thor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Authority, and watched the red planet grow larger on the viewing screens. Scan for human defenses, he ordered. Detecting minimal activity, his sensor officer reported. A few patrol ships. Some orbital stations. Nothing significant. Vexthor allowed himself a small smile. The humans had surrendered without even trying. All their peaceful words and diplomatic protests had been exactly that. Words. They had no real military power. Prepare to broadcast surrender terms, he said. That's when the asteroid belt lit up. 300 points of light appeared simultaneously between Mars and Jupiter. The sensor officer's console erupted in warning sounds. Contact. Multiple contacts. Energy signatures reading as... The officer's voice rose in panic. Quantum disruption weapons. Impossible. Where did they... The first wave of fire from the hidden platforms crossed the distance in seconds. Quantum disruption beams, invisible to normal sensors, passed through the Valorian shields as if they weren't there. The shields were designed to stop kinetic impacts and energy weapons. They had never been tested against weapons that disrupted quantum coherence. 15 Valorian ships simply stopped existing. Their quantum states collapsed and they folded into themselves like paper burning backward. Evasive maneuvers, Vexthor shouted. Return fire on those platforms. But the human platforms weren't stationary targets. They were mounted on asteroids with low-power engines, constantly shifting position. By the time Valorian weapons locked onto where a platform had been, it had moved. More beams lanced out. 20 more ships collapsed, then 30. Where is their fleet? Vexthor demanded. Behind us, someone screamed. 600 human ships emerged from hiding positions near Mars's moons and in the planet's shadow. They had been there the entire time, powered down, invisible to Council sensors. Now they lit their engines and accelerated at speeds the Valorian computers said were impossible, Admiral. Steele stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched his fleet execute the attack, pattern they had practiced 1,000 times in simulation. All ships engage swarm tactics. Target their command vessels. Don't get caught in extended fighting. The human ships moved like hunting wolves. They didn't form neat formations. They came from every angle at once, fast and unpredictable. Valorian gunners tried to target them, but the human ships were 20% faster with acceleration humans had kept secret for 40 years. A pack of 10 human corvettes surrounded a Valorian battleship. They fired in sequence, each shot timed to hit the same shield section. The shield held for 3 shots. On the 4th, it failed. The 5th shot went straight through the hull. The human ships were already gone, racing toward their next target. This isn't possible, Vexthor said, watching his formation fall apart. Council intelligence said humans had 600 ships total. They said human weapons were standard Council technology. They said they were wrong, his tactical officer reported. Human ships are faster, more maneuverable, and their weapons are more advanced than our current technology. And sir, I'm detecting unusual network activity. The human ships are coordinating with quantum entangled communication. There's no lag between their movements. They're acting as one mind. Artificial Intelligence Combat Coordination. The Synthesis Collective had warned the Council that developing true AI was dangerous. The Council had banned the technology. Apparently, humanity had developed it anyway and kept it secret. We still have numbers, Vexthor said. Reform the fleet. Concentrated fire. But reforming required time and space. The human ships didn't give them either. They hit and ran, never staying in place long enough to be targeted effectively. And the platforms in the asteroid belt kept firing, each shot taking out another ship. In the first hour of battle, the Valorian Armada lost 300 ships. Human losses, 23. Throughout the solar system, the pattern repeated. On Jupiter Station, human defense forces engaged Kryn Federation ships that tried to secure the gas giant's moons. The Kryn had experience fighting rebels. They didn't have experience fighting an opponent that knew all their tactics and had prepared counters for each one. Near Earth, the Synthesis Collective tried to hack human systems. They were the galaxy's masters of electronic warfare. Within minutes, they realized the humans had quantum encryption they couldn't break. Not only that, but human counter-hackers were already inside collective systems, feeding false data and corrupting targeting solutions. The greatest shock came when the Kryn Federation's Pride, the dreadnought Worldbreaker, encountered a single human corvette near Saturn. The Worldbreaker was 5 times the corvette's size with enough firepower to level a planet. The Kryn captain laughed when the tiny ship approached. He stopped laughing when the corvette activated its faster-than-light drive while still inside normal space. Every council physicist said that was impossible. The energy requirements alone would destroy the ship. Humanity had solved that problem 6 years ago. The corvette hit the world breaker at a significant fraction of light speed, maintaining its FTL field for just long enough. The impact released more energy than a tactical nuclear weapon. The world breaker broke in half, its name becoming grimly ironic. The corvette and its crew of 8 were gone. But so was the most powerful ship in the Kryn fleet. On occupied colony worlds, the uprisings began exactly on schedule. Council troops had thought the human colonists were pacified. They were wrong. The colonists had been waiting, preparing, organizing. Hidden weapon caches that had been there since the colonies were first settled emerged. On New Singapore, 200 council troops found themselves surrounded by 3,000 armed colonists who knew every building and every street. The troops surrendered in 4 hours. On New Beijing, the resistance cells coordinated with human ships that suddenly appeared in orbit. The council administrators who had been running the camps were arrested by their own former prisoners. Throughout council space, human merchant ships revealed their true purpose. They had been intelligence-gathering vessels all along, quietly mapping military installations, recording communication protocols, tracking fleet movements. Now they struck at supply depots and communication relays with precision. By the end of the first day, High Counselor Vexthor was facing a disaster. His armada had lost 800 ships. Human casualties were less than 100 vessels. His supply lines were being cut. His communication network was compromised. And worst of all, other council species were starting to question the mission. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Synthesis Collective," his communication officer reported. The hologram of Counselor Thren appeared. Her artificial face could show no emotion, but her words were sharp. "High Counselor, the Collective is withdrawing from this operation. Our analysis shows the humans were telling the truth. The genetic evidence was fabricated. We will not continue to participate in what amounts to genocide based on lies." "You cannot withdraw," Vexthor protested. Council law requires truth," Thren interrupted. "The humans have broadcast the original data we used. Our analysts have re-examined it. The fabrication is obvious once one looks without bias. The Valorian Empire lied to the Council. We are withdrawing immediately." The connection ended. Over the next 2 days, 5 more species withdrew their ships. The conspiracy was falling apart. The smaller species that had supported the operation out of fear now saw that humanity was not going to lose. They began reconsidering their positions. On the 14th day after the word retribution was given, High Counselor Vexthor faced the truth. His armada was down to 700 ships. Human forces had grown stronger as reserves emerged from hidden positions. The colonies were free. Council space was in chaos as species blamed each other for the false war, and humanity showed no signs of stopping. They had moved from defense to offense. Human ships were approaching Valorian space itself. "Contact the human admiral," Vexthor said quietly. "Offer terms of negotiation." His officers stared at him in shock. "Sir, the Valorian Empire does not surrender," one said. "Then the Valorian Empire will cease to exist," Vexthor replied. "Look at the tactical display. We have lost. The only question is how many more of our people die before we admit it." Admiral Steele received the communication request while his fleet was 3 days from the Valorian home system. He read the message requesting negotiations and looked at Ambassador Chen, who had joined the fleet. "What do you think?" he asked. "I think they're terrified," Chen said. "And they should be. But the question is what we do with their fear. The President will want to know our recommendation." Chen looked at the tactical display showing the location of the Valorian homeworld. 20 billion Valorians lived there. Families, children, people who had no part in their leadership's decisions. "We issue the word retribution," she said. "Not revenge. Not genocide. We've proven our point. Now we see if we can build something better from the ashes, or if we become the monsters they feared." Steele nodded and opened a channel to Earth. The storm of war had come. Now came the harder part, deciding what kind of peace would follow. The human fleet held position at the edge of Valorian space while the galaxy watched and waited. Admiral Steele's ships formed a perfect perimeter around the approach to the Valorian homeworld. Every species with sensors pointed them at this system, wondering if humanity would take the final step and destroy an entire civilization. President Amati stood in the communication room on Earth, facing the holographic projection of High Counselor Vexthor. The Valorian leader looked diminished somehow. His 4 arms hung at his sides. His proud posture was gone. "You wanted to negotiate," Amati said. "I'm listening." "We surrender," Vexthor said simply. "The Valorian Empire ceases all hostile action against humanity. We will withdraw from all human colonies. We will release all prisoners. We will provide reparations for the damage caused." "That's a start," Amati replied. "But not enough." Vexthor's eyes widened slightly. "What more can we offer? You hold all the power now." "Truth," Amati said. "I want you to tell the entire galaxy what really happened. Broadcast on all council channels. Explain how you fabricated the genetic evidence. Explain why you did it. Let every species hear the real reason you tried to eliminate us." There was a long silence. For a Valorian to admit such deception would destroy his reputation permanently, but Vexthor had no choice left. "I will do this," he agreed quietly. Ambassador Chen, standing beside the president, spoke up. "And one more thing. The council as it exists now is broken. We won't return to a system where a few powerful species can vote to destroy others based on lies and fear. There must be reform." "I have no authority to reform the council," Vexthor protested. "Then we'll do it ourselves," Amati said. "We're calling a new assembly. Every species in the galaxy is invited. The old council is dissolved. What comes next will be different." She ended the transmission before Vexthor could respond. 6 days later, High Counselor Vexthor made his broadcast. 20 billion Valorians watched as their leader destroyed his own legacy. Trillions of beings across the galaxy heard the truth. "The evidence against humanity was false," Vexthor said, his voice steady despite the personal cost. "I ordered it created because we feared human advancement. In 50 years, they had developed technology and influence that took other species centuries to achieve. I believed they would eventually dominate the council. I convinced other species to join me in eliminating the threat before it became unstoppable." He paused, looking directly at the camera. "I was wrong, not about human potential, but about everything else. Humanity had no desire to dominate. They wanted partnership. And when we betrayed that partnership, when we tried to destroy them, they showed us something we had forgotten. That power without wisdom is meaningless. That strength without justice is tyranny. They had the power to destroy us completely. Instead, they offer us a chance to rebuild." The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, species that had supported the war against humanity felt shame. Species that had stayed neutral felt relief that they hadn't joined the wrong side. And the smaller species that had been victims of council pressure for centuries felt hope that change might finally come. 3 months later, representatives from all 47 council species gathered at a neutral station. Additionally, 32 species that had never been invited to join the council were present. Species too small, too poor, or too technologically limited to matter to the old power structure. President Amati addressed the assembly, not as a supplicant but as an equal. The old council failed because it was built on the assumption that some species were more important than others. That military power and economic influence should determine whose voice mattered. This led to exactly what we experienced: the powerful attacking the growing to maintain their position. She gestured to the assembled representatives. "I propose something different, the Accord of Species. Every species gets 1 vote regardless of size or power. Decisions require not just majority but consensus from representatives of at least 3/4 of members. No species can be expelled or sanctioned without presenting evidence to an independent tribunal." A Valorian representative, not Vexthor, who had resigned in disgrace, raised one of his arms. "And if a species truly becomes dangerous? If the genetic evidence had been real? Then we deal with it through science and diplomacy, not fear and military force," Ambassador Chen answered. "Humanity is not naive. We understand there are real threats, but fabricating threats to justify aggression cannot be tolerated. Truth must come first, always." The discussions lasted for weeks. Species argued, negotiated, and compromised. In the end, the Accord of Species was ratified by all present. The old Galactic Council was officially dissolved. The new Assembly of Species took its place, but votes and treaties were only part of the change. Humanity had something else to offer. In a laboratory on Mars, human scientists demonstrated the quantum disruption weapons to a group of council engineers. They explained the principles, showed the mathematics, and provided full technical specifications. "We're sharing this?" a Kryn scientist asked in amazement. "After we tried to kill you with inferior weapons?" Dr. Sarah Kim, the lead developer, smiled. "We're sharing all of it. The weapons, the engines, the encryption, the AI coordination systems. Everything we developed. Why?" The Synthesis Collective observer asked. "You could maintain military superiority indefinitely." "Because superiority is temporary," Dr. Kim replied. "Eventually someone would match us or exceed us. Then we'd be back in the same arms race that led to this war. Better to share, to advance together, and to build trust through transparency. The humans could have ruled the galaxy," a historian from the neutral Persean Commonwealth said later. "They had the military power. They had the moral authority after being attacked unjustly. Instead, they gave it away." The historian was writing a book on the war, interviewing participants from all sides. She sat across from Admiral Steele in his office on the new Joint Military Headquarters station. "Why did you show mercy?" she asked. "Your people wanted revenge. You had earned it." Steele looked at old photos on his wall, pictures of him serving with Valorian soldiers during the Kryn Rebellion. Friends who had become enemies, then reluctant allies again. "Because revenge would have made us what they feared," he said. "We would have proved that humans are dangerous and aggressive. Instead, we proved something else. That we're dangerous when threatened, but generous when secure. That we remember betrayal but don't let it define us." He turned to face the historian. The word was retribution, not revenge. Retribution means justice, making things right, restoring balance. "We did that. We freed our people, we defended our home, we forced truth into the light. But we didn't become monsters. That's the lesson we wanted to teach." The historian nodded and made notes. Her book would become required reading in schools across the galaxy for generations. 5 years after the war, the changes were visible everywhere. The Assembly of Species met regularly, with rotating leadership from different worlds. The joint military force under Admiral Steele's command had personnel from 20 species, all working together with shared technology and shared purpose. Human colony worlds were thriving again, joined by new colonies as humanity continued to expand. But now other species colonized alongside them, mixed settlements where humans, Valorians, Kryn, and others built communities together. On a school on the Valorian homeworld, a teacher named Kresh taught young Valorians about galactic history. Today's lesson covered what was simply called the human lesson. High Counselor Vexthor feared humanity's growth, Kresh explained to his students. He believed that powerful species would inevitably try to dominate others because that's what the Council had always done. The strong ruled the weak, a young student raised her arm. But the humans didn't do that. No, Kresh agreed. When they won, when they had all the power, they did something our ancestors didn't expect. They shared it. They helped rebuild what was destroyed. They forgave but didn't forget. Why? Another student asked. After we tried to kill them? Kresh walked to the window showing the city outside. A human-designed hospital was visible in the distance, built with technology humanity had shared freely after the war. Because they understood something we had forgotten. That true strength isn't about how hard you can hit. It's about knowing when not to hit. They could have destroyed us. Instead, they taught us that the galaxy works better when we work together. He turned back to his students. The humans gave us a phrase that's now used across all species. Power without wisdom is tyranny. They had the power. They showed the wisdom, and they changed everything. On Earth, President Amati prepared to step down after serving 2 terms. Ambassador Chen would run for president in the next election. Admiral Steele had retired to teach at the new Interspecies Military Academy. In her final address, Amati reflected on the path humanity had taken. We went to the stars seeking friends. We were betrayed. We could have become bitter, isolated, angry. Instead, we became teachers. We showed the galaxy that being powerful doesn't mean being cruel, that winning doesn't require destroying your enemy completely, that the strongest choice is often the hardest one, to build instead of burn. She smiled at the camera. Our children will grow up in a galaxy where species work together not from fear, but from choice.